Well, tonight, an estimated 8,000 to 10,000 people have left the Syrian city of Aleppo, but the evacuation is on hold yet again. Syrian forces and rebel forces accusing each other of breaking the terms of a ceasefire and for being responsible for an attack on one of the evacuation convoys. The Syrian government says the process will resume once the wounded are evacuated from 2 government-controlled villages under siege by rebel forces.
Large parts of Aleppo are in ruins after months of bombardment. Many from the east will take a safe passage opportunity to travel only to the west of the city. Others, including opposition fighters and their families, will go to the rebel-controlled city of Idlib near the border with Turkey, where the UN Special Envoy for Syria says they may have to brace themselves again.
What will happen in Idlib? I'm sorry to say that we don't know, but seeing what happened in Aleppo, and if there isn't any agreement on a ceasefire, and if there is no political discussion, then Idlib is the next Aleppo.
For those evacuees who decide to go further than Idlib, Turkey has said it will provide shelter and humanitarian aid to residents leaving Aleppo.
And I'm joined now at the big table by Usama Dara. He is a political scientist here in Berlin. He's advised Syrian opposition groups, and he also works with organizations here in Germany providing humanitarian aid to Syria. It's good to have you on the day. Appreciate you coming in. I want to go back to yesterday. How did you feel when the Russians declared that the battle for Aleppo is over?
Good evening, Brent. Well, the Russians have a policy of lying in terms of their foreign policy. They declare that they enter Syria militarily and that they've withdrawn. And officially, they're not fighting in the Ukraine either and have nothing to do with that. So the policy goal here is to confuse the West on what is going on there and to tire people out. That's what they're doing when they say that. When we look at what is happening in Aleppo, we had a Turkish-Russian plan, about 3 days old, to evacuate about 50,000 people. Now, when you say evacuation, that is a false term also, because in fact it's a forced displacement. That is a war crime under international law. And the idea, remember here, is to forcibly displace a population that doesn't want to leave their home.
So is that what you're saying? First of all, 50,000, we've been told maybe it was up to 100,000, and we've been told that these people want to evacuate. You're saying that's not true, that the people want to stay in eastern Aleppo?
Well, of course. I mean, you had, until the beginning of December, 275,000 civilians being defended by 8,000 to 9,000 Free Syrian Army and Islamic militiamen. Among them were several hundred Nusra fighters. So to Russia, this is an anti-terror operation. And of course, they have destroyed the entire civilian infrastructure in these areas, bakeries, schools, marketplaces, and all the major hospitals. Now, if you force people to choose between death and displacement, in the end, they will choose displacement. But what we have in effect is a massive war crime of besieging them and breaking them down by bombardment, being covered by an even greater war crime, forced displacement.
All right. But talk to me, though, about the narrative that we here in the West have been hearing from day one, and that is that in eastern Aleppo, you have a population of civilians that are being terrorized by the rebels there, possibly, but we're more afraid of the Syrian forces coming in and what they could do to them if they regained control. Is that an accurate picture of what is going on or has been going on in eastern Aleppo?
No, it isn't, Brent. I see that they're tiring you out with the rhetoric. I mean, if you believe the barrel bomber, the chlorine bomber, Assad, or the professional KGB lying policy of the Russians, then we would have a lot to talk about. The facts on the ground are important.
Well, that's what we're trying to get, because it's been very difficult to get independent information from the ground.
Well, you have an oppositional population that has been besieged by Assad's forces, which is basically a bunch of warlords that need 25,000 foreign Shiite militiamen, basically mercenaries under international law, to to crush their own population. You have the Russian Air Force helping them there. This has been winding down, even in the first days of December, moving to the last 3 days, where they've broken through east of the Quake River, which runs north and south, the eastern part of Aleppo. So you have in the eastern part, which is now controlled by government forces, by the regime, you have about 75,000 civilians under control of these militias. And we're hearing the most abominable stories and videos that are coming out.
What these government forces are doing to the
be
civilians.
Displaced are the people that are squirmed into 2 city districts, Sukkari and, forgotten the other one, to be honest, late, which are 50,000 people in there. Now, that has gone down as a Turkish-Russian plan. Now, the forces on the ground, which are more stronger than the Russians and actually control the logistics, are the Iranian-commanded forces. They run all the Iraqi militias, they pay for them, the Afghani militias, and even give orders to the Syrian militias there. Now, when the Russians agree with the Turks, without even consulting the Iranians, they put up their own conditions, and this is what happens.
But I mean, what we've got a situation now is that we've got the Russians, the Turks, and the Iranians saying that they want to hold peace talks. The United Nations, the European Union, has not been invited.
Well, we've held 3 peace talks in Geneva, 3 rounds. This year, the first 6 months of this year, we held 3 rounds of peace talks, and there's 4 tracks that have been discussed. The opposition and their Western friends did not get a slice of bread from Assad. So this is what you do: cluster bomb and then sweet talk. That's how Russian policy is.
Usama Dara, we appreciate you coming in and kind of shedding light on what's going on. It is not a simple story to tell. We appreciate your insights. Thank you.
It's not pretty.
Yeah, thank you.